Hello and welcome to the Hot as Hell podcast. I am Chrissy and I am excited to bring today's chat. You've heard me talk about sourdough. You know that I am a mad sourdough lady. Well, I am introducing you to the woman who started it all. I have the amazing Alice Belton with me today, and we are going to have a chat about real food, hopefully some sourdough. Alice, welcome to the show. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thanks for having me. It's
Yeah, of
great.
course, of course. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how come you do it.
Gosh. Right. Well, who I am. So, as you've just introduced me, I'm Alice Belton. I live in Manchester. I call myself a real food advocate, although that's kind of currently under review because I don't really know if it makes any sense. But essentially, what it means is that I help connect people who feel overwhelmed with diets, with what do I do, with, there's too much out there, to real food in a way that feels achievable, accessible, relatable, and something which they can own for themselves, thus kind of creating like a sense of empowerment and self-control around food and kind
Mm.
of a more of a sense of groundedness. Um, that's what I do. Um, did you say how did I get here?
Yeah, tell us your story because I know like a fair bit about your story. But yeah, tell us because you haven't always been a real food advocate.
No. It's really good actually having these questions because it really gets you to think about how did I get to where I am now? My background, so I grew up and I had probably I would say eating disorder, a big sense of hatred about my body, a big sense of needing to really, really not eat, just totally disconnected to food, out of control with food, stemming from a sense of inadequacy and like self-hatred. I would use this word hatred. It's a big word, but it definitely was there for a very, very large part of my life throughout my teens, certainly into my 20s. By the time I'm like in my late 20s-ish, I'm maturing, I'm beginning to kind of work through some stuff. Um, but I think the big change happened when I had my son, who is now 10.
Mhm.
And I knew that I had had a relationship with my body and with food that was based on lack and was based on self-hatred and was based I was making my decisions in order to fit in to a mold that I felt like I have to fit into in order to be accepted or loved or beautiful or whatever the word you might use. And I kind of knew that I didn't want that anymore. It wasn't working for me. And I knew that in the long run, this is not psychologically healthy for me to operate in this way. I knew enough about psychology. I'd been enough as on a kind of self-improvement journey to just kind of like, no. But what I found myself was with a body that was much larger than what I was used to because I just had a son, much more fleshy.
Mhm.
And I didn't really feel comfortable in it, but I wasn't prepared to go back to what I had done before, which was to not eat or crash diet or do something that I don't think I didn't want anymore. So I was kind of like, what do I do? And the very first thing that I started doing, which I don't know where this maybe came from, I might have picked it up from somewhere, or maybe it just came out of my soul. But I started connecting with my body, and in particular, connecting with the areas of my body that I didn't like. In particular, my quite large, fleshy hips, large, fleshy thighs, a lot of cellulite. My belly was large because I'd had a baby, and it was it hung over my jeans. It was large. But I started forcing myself to touch those areas and to thank those areas for what they had given me. So they'd produced a human being,
Mm.
and my legs had taken me around the world. They were strong. I was standing. I began to thank my skin rather than look at my skin and be like, oh, I hate this cellulite, or oh, it's disgusting, or it's pale, or, the things that you tell yourself constantly, or certainly I told myself constantly, and began to force myself to see it in a different way. And that was like the beginning, I think. It was kind of forced from a place of stuckness of
Mm.
like, I don't know. I can't go back there because it's not healthy, but I don't really like what I look like. What do I do? Well, maybe if I begin to accept myself and like what I look like, then maybe that's a good start. So that's where it
Yeah.
started, which is about self-image, I guess. Where the food comes in, I've always been interested in growing food. I've always been fascinated by the fact that you can plant a seed in the ground. It doesn't only grow and give you food, but it also gives you thousands of seeds for
Yeah.
like the next generations. It's like, I can't believe it. All you have to do is put it in some soil, water it, and give it sun. And then obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. But in its basic form,
Yeah.
this is like some abundant system that's like, oh my God. So I've always been amazed about it. Um, but my real desire to see food change, I think having had a child, knowing that, gosh, the food system isn't very healthy out there. What do I want from my son when he's growing up? And it just kind of grew. I started growing food, I started foraging, I started understanding the psychology of food, understanding history, even like the spirituality of food, just everything. I was like, I want to know it all. I want to know it all. And it kind of grew. And here I am now. So that gives you a little bit about my background, and how I've got to where I am now, which is, I would say, I've got a toned body. I've somehow got a body that I always sort of wanted,
Yeah.
um, but never was. It was never like achievable. But I've got there through, um, sort of connecting with food, and being abundant and wanting more for myself rather than wanting less. And it's
Yeah.
a long journey, but it's one that I will be on for life.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad I've like discovered this. There we go.
Yeah. It's lovely. What a great story.
Mm.
So, you talk about real food, but what does that actually mean in a world full of diet trends and low fat this and high protein that? What does real food mean?
Well, I would say real food for me, is food that is not a UPF, so an ultra processed food. So it may be processed in some way. So, for example, tinned tomatoes, they are processed in some way, but haven't had any chemical additives added to it. Um, Cheese is processed. It's fermented. It is processed in some way, but well, apart from like ultra processed, disgusting American cheese, or what I would think is disgusting. Anyway, it's a real food. So
Yeah.
it's food that hasn't been ultra processed. It may be either in its raw form, it may be cooked, because even when we cook things, we process things. We
Yeah.
take it from one state to another. Um, so it's raw form or cooked, or anything which doesn't have the ultra category added to it. All of the emulsifiers, the stabilizers, the stuff that isn't really healthy for us. That's what I would class as real food.
Yeah. So as close to its natural but safe for consumption, because what we're not saying is go and eat raw chicken breast.
Definitely. I'm not saying that.
But stuff that is as close to its natural form as possible is great, and a single ingredient as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Or not necessarily even a single ingredient, but all the ingredients are real. They
yeah.
haven't been
Recognizable.
processed. recognizable. They haven't had added chemicals put in them, or they've not been kind of split up into so many different sections,
Mm,
and then kind of reformed in some other way to constitute something different that our body might not recognize as a natural food.
yeah, yeah, great, perfect. So, so many women feel confused about what to eat, and I think as a perimenopausal woman of nearly 46, I obviously work with women our age, and I therefore get drawn into this echo chamber of what is being pushed at
Mm.
perimenopausal women. And so they're really confused. Should I eat this? Should I eat that? What should I eat? What shouldn't I eat? Where do you think that confusion really comes from?
Um, well, I think it comes from the fact that fear sells.
Mm,
And I think the food industry has become something that is based on fear.
mm,
And a lot of the big um, influencers or people who get a large following, for example, and I'm not saying there's anything bad with that, but fear is often used. And I think fear has got its roots in us just trying to work out life. Like we don't want to die, we don't want to get ill, we
right.
don't want to get cancer, we want to live our best life. And that's coming from a good place of wanting to live our best life. We want to
Yeah.
protect ourselves.
We need fear. Fear's like
Yeah.
stress. We do actually need stress. Fear is there for a reason. It tells us something.
That's a really, really good point. And it's like I think it's very powerful and it sells. And now we've kind of got into a place whereby we're so kind of disconnected from food, and at the same time connected to a system that sells based on fear. It creates a lot of confusion, and
Mm,
we don't have any more that kind of sense of actually, I know what's good for my body. I'm going to make my choices for
mm,
me because I know what's right for me.
yeah.
And that's what that's my sweet spot. I really, really feel that by putting the power back into people's hands, or I can't put actually power into someone else's hands, only they can put power into their own hands. But kind of like reassuring and being like, you know what, you can make your own food choices and you can make good food choices and you know what to do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Because we all know that there's a massive information out there
Yep.
that actually we're not short of information. It's just the noise, the confusion. And I think it's because it's based on fear, which makes me feel so sad because I look at this abundant nature of food, which gives us of itself unconditionally all the time. And like it's kind of in opposition to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do.
So
I
yeah.
do. You're so right. There's so much fear, and I'm in the middle of a conversation with a client today who I'm showing her an experiment, which is just how much Chrissy eats in a day. Right. I
Mm.
don't do what I eat in a day stuff on social media because I don't actually think out of context it's not helpful.
Mm.
But my client is really scared to eat the amount of food I'm asking her to eat
Right. Because
because
it's a lot.
it's a lot. But that's because so much of my food is so it is so like you say, it's real food. I just had
Mm.
a really big abundant salad with homemade coleslaw and sauerkraut and leaves and some rice and some chicken and all of this stuff. And it was piled up out of my bowl. And I sent it to her. And she was like, I'd be so scared to eat
Mm,
all of that because this
mm,
fear is that the thought is the more food you eat, the heavier you get. But there's so
interesting.
much more context to it than that, than if
Yeah.
if you're eating really highly nutrient dense food, that food is going to make you feel fuller, more satisfied and great than
Mm,
if you sat and ate, a ready meal or a takeaway pizza.
mm. Something that's like empty.
Yeah.
A question for you actually. When you said about the what's been like peddled, I think, or you said what's been
Mm.
being pushed, in to our
Yeah.
age category. What is out there? What is the kind of like messages, or what are the messages that you find in your kind of industry that is being
So,
really
yeah, what I'm seeing more of is we're going back to the 90s skinny chic.
interesting?
So I really don't like the word skinny. I
Mm,
really don't like that.
mm,
Um, we're really seeing this. I want to be as small as possible.
interesting.
Um,
Okay.
whereas I just want my bum to be as big as possible.
Yes, you do.
Um, we're really seeing this must eat as little as possible. And then
Hmm.
a push on, not eating ultra processed food, but from a very extreme point of view with that almost shame against you who
Shame.
are when and we talked about this, didn't we, in our little chat about what this conversation would look like. And it's really important to recognize that for a mum who's working a big job and maybe commuting and got 3 or 4 children, that sometimes she just needs to be able to grab something. And then there's also like a massive push on you should be taking all of these supplements, and now
Hmm.
everything has collagen in it. I went to Costco for the first time in my life yesterday. I bought 40 toilet rolls just so everyone knows. I don't feel like I should have to buy toilet rolls for the rest of this year. If I do, there is a problem in this household. There's only three of us. But I went to Costco and I walked up and down the like the supplement and protein aisle where all of the protein powders and the supplements and stuff
Mm.
are. And literally every other product was with collagen, with collagen, with collagen, with collagen, with
Mm.
collagen, right? So
Wow.
everyone thinks that that's, they need to be taking that.
Mm.
So there's a lot of supplement organizations jumping
Mm.
on these little clickbaity words because
Mm.
women want collagen because they think it's going to make their skin,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's going to be a Botox in
Yeah.
powder form. And then there's a big push on, oh, you should be having these supplements as a 40 something year old woman because this will
Mm.
change your life. That's what I'm seeing.
Interesting. I th I definitely I definitely feel you. I see it. I sort of filter it out. But it's interesting getting your perspective as well. And the whole thing about shame is absolutely spot on. And it's almost become like um we've just got so many pressures on our time, our finances, like our jobs, our everything. It's a lot. It's an awful lot. Um, and I think even like real food now can be like this kind of thing. Oh, like sometimes I've had people, I feel terrible because sometimes I see people in the supermarket and it's like they think, oh no, it's that woman. is she gonna see in my shopping trolley? And so, and like they might be surprised that I've actually got like pizzas and stuff like that in for my
Yeah.
son in my shopping trolley, or like fish fingers, and I've actually had people come up to me and, do you know what, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I don't usually eat stuff like this." Isn't that interesting? Like
Yeah.
me, you know, I,
Yeah.
like it's so interesting, and I don't think necessarily. Well, I hope that's not too much of a reflection on my message, and I want to just, it's really good having these kind of conversations, because I always want any messages that I send to be actually non-pressurizing and relatable, because then it's actually achievable. It's not achievable if you just feel pressured or you have to be like someone else. But I think this people feel so much pressure to like do all this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just too much. It's too
Yeah.
much.
It is too much.
Yeah.
It is too much. You say about people coming up to you and apologizing. I went to a business brunch or lunch before Christmas, and they someone didn't have a note of what I'd ordered for dessert, or maybe I couldn't remember what I'd ordered for dessert. And someone said, "Well, you won't have that, will you? Because that's got fruit in it and all of the sugar in the fruit, right?"
Ah.
And the other options were like a cheesecake and a chocolate lava cake or something. I think I'd gone for the chocolate lava cake. But what she chose to point out was that I wouldn't eat the fruit because of the excess sugar in the fruit.
Wow.
And it's such old-fashioned thinking. Like
Mm.
that's the thinking that I think my mum grew up with in like Slimming
Mm.
World and Weight Watchers, where you
Mhm.
had to limit your fruit intake because of sugar. But it was
Wow.
okay for you to, consume pasta by the bucket load. And
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
there
yeah.
is a massive level of miseducation
Mm.
around food
Mm.
and what it provides us with,
Mm.
and the main macronutrients of food, and that actually pasta and fruit are both carbohydrates, and boiled down to their most basic form
Mm.
are a sugar.
Yes, such a good point. Such a
you
good.
know
Yeah, yeah.
so that's why I think I have such a anti slimming club approach,
Mm.
because they'll tell you that you can eat plate and platefuls of pasta, but oh, please don't eat too many strawberries.
Wow.
Crazy, crazy,
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Hmm.
Um, okay, what are some of the biggest lies we've been sold about food over the last 20 and 30 years?
Well, I think that you just hit on one of them.
Yeah.
Um, some of the biggest lies, that you have to be afraid of food.
Mm,
Um, that you have to weigh your food. Um, and that you have to, I think maybe the biggest lie, I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know. I'll probably come off this podcast and be like, oh, this is a lie, that's a lie. You forget things, don't you? Or you don't manage to say things. But it's maybe it's all rooted in this notion that you can't, you have to look outside of yourself to make the choices for yourself, to make food choices for yourself.
mm,
And that's a lie. You don't have to do that. Everything, you know what you need. You know what you need. I know what I need. What you need is going to be different from me. And we like to, the industry, if I can say that word, likes to kind of go, well, everyone should just do this. But every single one of us is like this intricate being with
mm,
different immune systems, different metabolism, different times in our life, different things that we've got going on that is going to affect our everything. So it's not one size fits all. It's not even one size fits three. It's an individual choice. And I think it's the biggest lie, because it's caused people to disconnect from their bodies, to disconnect from the thing that makes them healthy, which is wonderful food. question themselves and then panic because,
Mm,
and then go and buy stuff. And I'm not
yeah.
saying buying stuff is wrong. I think it's great to have a healthy, active interest in things that might benefit your body, your health, your overall well-being. But every choice, I believe, needs to be filtered through, is this coming from fear or is this coming from a place of empowerment and
Mm,
this is the right thing for me?
mm.
So yeah, that kind of encapsulates most things, I think.
And I guess it's interesting some of the things that you've said there because you said you need to fear food, and I absolutely agree with you. One of the things that I always say to people when they say I can't just have one or I've got no self-control, I'm like, you are giving power to an inanimate object, but on the other side of my face I'm saying food is beautiful and
Mm,
does have the power to make us healthy, and I do
mm,
agree with that. But when
mm,
you're saying I can't say no to one chocolate biscuit, like
mm.
you're putting your power of choice into a chocolate biscuit. That's ridiculous. That chocolate biscuit even does not jump up off the counter stack and staring you in the face and going, go on, eat me,
Eat
otherwise I'm going
me.
to hurt you. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't do that. So
Mm,
people give their power away, and I suppose what they're giving their power away to is the fear of food, not necessarily the food itself. And then the other thing that I would probably challenge is, and I guess it with the women that I work with, is that one of the things I teach women is portion control.
mm,
And some of that does come down to, in some way, shape, or form, measuring your food, whether it's using cup measures or whatever it is, because the women that come to me do want to lose weight
of
and
course.
have not, a lot of them, the example I gave you earlier, a lot of the women that come to me have no connection, like you said, to their bodies in terms of knowing when they're hungry, in terms of knowing when they're full, in
Mm,
terms of knowing whether they're thirsty, in
mm,
terms of knowing whether they are feeling a strong emotion and that's what's driving them to the biscuit tin.
mm,
So a lot of what I do is I often get them eating more because they need to reawaken their body's hunger and fullness signals because they've gone for so long starving themselves of breakfast and lunch and then binging at dinner.
mm,
So actually helping them to be able to then get in tune with, this is what feeling satisfied with what I've just eaten feels like, versus so stuffed because I've been starving myself for 16 hours and now I need to shove it
mm,
all in my face at once,
mm,
often does involve weighing and measuring.
mm, yeah. Yeah, like the way, so I'm glad you brought up the chocolate biscuit because ev everything that I've just said about food is through the lens of real food.
Mm,
It's not through the lens of UPFs. And the problem is with UPFs and chocolate biscuits and stuff like that is that they are manufactured to be addictive.
yeah,
So I do not eat chocolate biscuits because I can't stop eating them. I can't do it. And I certainly can't stop eating things like Pringles. So I just don't go there.
yeah.
Not only can I not stop eating them, they make me feel like shit. They make my skin look bad. Sorry if I just swore. I'm not maybe not
It's
allowed to
okay,
swear.
you're
Okay,
allowed to swear.
okay, fine. They make my skin look like shit. They make me feel like crap. I get a coating on my skin. I feel a bit depressed and gross. Blech. I just don't want it.
Mm,
So for me, those chocolate biscuits and those things, they literally do jump off and be like, eat me. And I can't not eat
no,
them. So I don't because they're just too addictive. And the problem with where we find ourselves now is that these foods are so cleverly manufactured, not just what they look like, the texture, the crunch, then the smoothness. You look at all of these adverts, right? And they're all about like, it's not just, oh, it looks nice. They break it open. There's a crack and then there's
Yeah.
like smooth goo inside. And you're like, oh my God. So and this is directly contacting an area of ourselves that we want to fill. We're like, give me that food. It's very hard when you're eating UPS to stop eating UPS. So
Mm,
that's what I would say about that. And I'm glad you mentioned that because everything that I do say is in the context of just real food category. The portion control, yeah, I think actually it's a good place to start. If you need, we can have a healthy container for things when we need to learn things about
mm,
actually this is how much is right for me and this is how much is right to eat. So and when if we don't know either through lack of connection to ourselves or lack of education and none of which is our fault, by the way,
mm,
but we don't know what we don't know, then things like measurements can be a really helpful beginning
mm.
to start us off on a road. So I think I'm up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really so this is was in one of the questions.
Mm.
I'd said that a lot of my audience struggle with sugar cravings.
Mm.
And so it was really interesting for you to say, I don't buy chocolate biscuits. I don't
Mm.
buy chocolate biscuits either.
Mm.
I come from a family of biscuit animals
Mm.
and it is in my DNA. My son is the same, and I really struggle to have biscuits in the house.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done a lot of work on emotional eating and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'm quite disciplined, but yeah, I can't have an open. Don't bring digestives into this house. Certainly don't
Mhm.
bring them and leave them open because that's not going to end prettily. But how do you or did you break the cycle of, your reliance on these things without relying on willpower? So one of the things you do is you just don't buy them. What
Yep.
else?
um right. Well, I notice what makes me feel good. It sounds so abstract and weird, right? But I think because if we go back to where we started, when I said 10 years ago, I wanted something different for myself. I forced myself to start loving the areas and I wanted something more than what I'd had before. So all of my choices began to come from this place. And I began to notice over time that actually sugar wasn't really helping me in the long run. I began to notice that actually I was getting like a short-term high, followed by quite a lot of like things that I didn't really want anymore. Not
Mm,
because I wanted to be thin, not because I wanted to be healthy, but because I wanted to enjoy life more.
yeah,
And I noticed I was like, oh, I've mentioned this furry coating on my teeth. The thing that like was the nail in the coffin for me. And by the way, when we go for a posh restaurant, every now and again we go to a very posh restaurant and I'll have the pudding because it's a small portion and I love it. I love it.
yeah,
It's wonderful because I've had a big meal, have the pudding. It's like every now and again I just enjoy it. So I'm not like never ever ever ever, but snacking and stuff like that, I just don't go there. But my son was about, I don't know, 3, and we were on holiday in Wales, and a lovely lady had invited us round to her house for tea. And we didn't really know them very well. It was all very like, oh yeah, and they lived in this big house, and she'd made these cupcakes with like, and I was been on this no sugar journey for a while, and I'd noticed this just making me feel like crap. I don't want to eat sugar. It makes me depressed. Like I have this big low. I just feel crap. So anyway, but she had these like cupcakes, and they were piled high with like what's the icing sugar? You get like
yeah.
icing sugar. So I was like, oh, I'll have one. Oh my God, it was utterly delicious. I was like, this is unbelievable. It's like all homemade, it was delicious, unbelievable. I had this like huge high of like, oh, I was just so full of energy, like, yay! followed by a few hours later, just this crash. Like crash. I just felt so low, Chrissy. I felt
Mm.
low, like depressed. And I was like, I am sure this is because I've been eating these cupcakes, which sounds so silly, right? But it was a nail in the coffin. I was like, that's it, done. I'm done. And it's not because I want to be thin. It's not because I want this or not because I want that. I just don't like this up and down, up and down, up and down. So, um, so in that's a kind of roundabout way to answer your question, which is you said, what do you do? And I listen to actually what makes me feel good is not eating sugar. And I
Mm.
think because like we're told not to eat it, it makes us want to eat it because we think, oh, it's going to make me feel good. But actually, when you really step back from it and take time to notice how it actually makes you feel, you might find something different. And
Mm.
then you might find that you want to make your choices from that rather than from I'm not allowed, which is a
Yes.
far more
Yeah.
sustainable way of doing things because all of a sudden you don't have to use your willpower, you just don't want it.
Yeah.
Does that make
It
sense?
yeah, it does.
Mm,
I one of the things that I really notice with myself,
mm,
I love food. I consider myself a foodie, but now
mm,
that I have really changed the way that I eat, and there's no emotional eating, there's no binging. And I've really tuned into how I feel. Food tastes different.
mm,
So I would much rather have a really good quality square of dark chocolate
mm,
than some dairy milk, for
mm,
example. Um, I would much rather have. So I made my husband some granola a few weeks back because he's been unwell, and this was like a really great granola, loads of seeds and things in it that were really, not going to aggravate him in terms of lots of glutinous oats and things like
mm.
that, but something that he could still put on his yogurt and have some crunch and have some variety. And he was like, I'm so bored of eating eggs every day. I want some yogurt back.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
made him this really nice granola, and it had no sugar in it, but just by I made it out of pumpkin puree actually.
Mm. That
Um,
is impressive.
yes, pumpkin
Hot
puree
as hell, the mum boss. That's
and
impressive. Pumpkin puree.
all of these ingredients. And because it wasn't covered in sugar or honey or maple syrup,
Mm,
you could taste the sweetness of every single nut that was in
mm,
there. And it
so
had
good.
coconut flakes in it, so you could taste the coconut.
Mm,
And then a sprinkling of salt to bring out the flavor of everything. And I just think you notice, if we ever do have a takeaway, my husband loves a curry. If we have a takeaway, I notice how I feel the next day. Yes, I enjoy eating it, but I eat so much less because I don't need as much of it. And I notice that I feel like crap the next day. So I
mm,
think, like, I can't agree with you anymore about tuning into your body and how you feel. I completely, and so much of that comes down to actually treating meal times like they are your job. Like
mm,
instead of eating in front of the TV. I mean, sometimes we eat in front of the TV, but we have no phones. There's no eating on the go. We don't take breakfast in the car with us. There's no running out the door with a slice of toast. Eating is about sitting down, where possible, using a knife and fork, and we use it as family time.
Having that designated kind of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, because you taste the food so much more. You are grateful for that sounds really woo, but you are grateful for the food. You enjoy it so much more.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right, sorry, I'm digressing. We need to talk about sourdough. Really, really, really important this because you have started a I don't know if I've lost you. Oh no. Have I lost Alice? I may have lost Alice. This is sad. Right. I lost Alice for a minute that now, but she's back. Sourdough, that's how I met you. You taught me how to make sourdough. I shared with you the other day. I made sourdough with 9 other women the other day, and it was just so amazing. And the whole process has just been honestly life-changing for me.
Mm.
Why why is that? And also, why is sourdough so good for us? Two questions. So why is the act of making this ourselves just so joyous, and why is it good for us?
Okay, first question. I don't really know. No, I mean, I can sort of share what I think about it. Um, I think there's something inbuilt into us over our progression as a human race that makes us want to make bread. I know it
Mm.
sounds a bit weird, right? But this is the most ancient form of making bread, and it's just flour, water, and salt, and that's it. And it goes as well. And I don't know anybody that would walk into a house or a shop, a bakery, and be like, "Oh, I don't like the smell of fresh bread." Everybody loves the smell of fresh bread. What is that
Yeah,
about? And it's like, well, you wouldn't go and smell a dog poo and be like, "Oh, I love the smell of a dog poo." We know what's good for us based on our
yeah,
senses. You'd go up to a dog poo, that's disgusting, take me away from it. But you smell fresh bread and you're like, take me to it. I love it. There's
yeah,
something about us that knows it's good for us. And I think in a weird way, there's maybe that's wordless. I can't quite put it into words. I think on a sort of holistic level, maybe it connects us to our ancestors, it connects us
yeah.
to our spiritual heritage, it connects us to our history,
It's a
our
bit
what
man make fire, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, a
yeah.
bit like that. Man make fire. And the number of times that people have come to sourdough workshop, or I've done things and they've been like, my grandma used to make this, or I'll have someone from a different culture to my culture, and they might say, "Oh, we make it this way," or we this is how we make flatbreads, or we make it on stones, and it's wonderful, and it impregnates every culture. Um, Probably with maybe the exception of people who live in very like maybe icy areas. I don't know, maybe
Mm,
Inuits and stuff like maybe they might not have been able to make bread, but certainly for the majority of people on this planet, baking bread has been a staple, not just for like centuries, but thousands of years, going back. And so I think it connects us at a very deep level to ourselves, to our surroundings, and to a natural desire in us. And it
yeah,
feels great.
it does. Yeah.
It does, doesn't
Yeah, it really does. And yeah, it really does. It really does.
it?
I don't really have much more to say about it other than I'm now just a mad sourdough lady.
I remember actually, I think you said something like, I think because you're obviously very busy. You've got a big job. You're busy. You've got clients all the time. You're a mum. You've got your own stuff going on. And I remember there was some sort of, these will be my words, so you have to forgive me, but it was some kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to I don't know how I'm going to bake sourdough all the time. Like, I don't actually think it's going to happen, really. That sort of, and now it's like I'm seeing your loaves and I'm like, just get it going.
Doing like 3 or 4 a week.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so good. It's so good.
And
Um,
once you know how to like fit it into your life,
yeah. And
it's
that's
that
the thing is
rhythm.
don't
It's the
allow
rhythm.
yourself to get caught by some kind of perfect time structure. You will make it
Mm,
work. And
exactly.
I think there's so much about oh, I've just got it. I've just got
Mm.
it. There
Ooh.
is so much about sourdough that you have to let go of perfect.
Oh, I love that.
Don't you? You have to let go of perfect, which I think is brilliant. And I'll confess to you, I haven't put this on our WhatsApp group, but in fairness to me, I haven't stopped. So I made quite a flat loaf this morning,
Mm.
and it was one of the doughs that I had taken with me to make the sourdough on Monday night, and I knew it was going to be about a bit flat. I knew it has been in the fridge a little bit too long, but you know what? I remembered what you always say: bake it
Mm.
anyway.
Bake it anyway.
Bake it anyway because it will still taste amazing. And if it's not high enough to make sandwiches out of, I'll make croutons out of it because they make
Exactly.
bloody good croutons. And so, yeah, I think sourdough to me represents letting go of perfection.
Brilliant. I love that. I need
Yeah,
to encapsulate that and somehow put it on my social media.
yeah, do it.
It's yeah, it's really, really good. And also you've learned so much intuitively that the dough has
Mm,
taught you. It's this relationship. So
yeah,
you're looking at this dough and you're like, I know it's going to be a flat, even before you baked it,
yeah,
you
even
knew.
before.
And
Uh,
that's not because you followed some you've not like looked at a tick box. You
no,
just know it's instinctive in you because you've done it so many times and you've
yeah.
allowed yourself to fail. And that's the beauty of it because now you know.
Well, now I know, but also I taught my best friend how to bake, and because she is just brilliant at everything, but also she is a stay-at-home mum,
Mm-hmm.
she is now making cinnamon rolls and everything. Like she just get, but
Yes.
what she said is, I don't understand why Alice's recipe has this much water, but me and you only use this much water. And I said, because Alice is in Manchester and the water is softer.
Mm.
We are down
Ah,
south, the water is harder. We need less water. And
that's
I,
brilliant. I wouldn't have even known that myself.
because we both use the same flour as you. That's why we went to Costco yesterday because you can get giant bags from Costco. So I used the marriage's flour, but she was like, "So how come Alice's is 700 mils of water, but we are 600?" And I was like, "Because we live down south."
That's very interesting.
Yeah, we live in a hard water area. Right, last question.
Yeah, hit me.
Someone who feels, I'm putting my earrings in because I realized I hadn't put them in, but it's fine, last few minutes. Um, who's someone who feels overwhelmed and really wants to transition to more of a real food approach. What
Mm.
is one or two simple shifts they can make?
Okay. One or two very simple shifts is just cut the snacking out.
Mm,
Snacking on things like chocolate bars, biscuits, even things like low fat yogurts. If it says it's low fat and it's like good for you, it's that's probably sure a sure way to know that actually it's not good for you. That's how like messed up things are. But essentially anything that's like ultra processed in a packet that you're eating quickly for convenience, um, that's going to really help you. Beneath that is a bit of a psychological exercise, and it's very, very simple. But you can ask yourself, am I really hungry?
love
Do
that.
I need a nap?
Hmm.
Do I need, am I horny? I know it sounds, do I need some sex, right? Do, am
Yes,
I, am
yes.
I, yeah, am I actually feeling ashamed about something that's happened at
Yeah.
work? Am I eating my feelings in some way? Am I feeling like embarrassed? Am I angry with someone? Do I need
Mm,
to go and have a difficult conversation, face-to-face conversation in a adult constructive way that's going to empower me? Am I
yeah,
thirsty?
yeah,
Do I just need to have a bath? Do I just need to go outside for 5 minutes? Because often food we're eating on something which is not hunger. So you and you can just ask yourself that
yeah.
and then do what you need to do rather than eat.
Yeah.
Um,
I call
don't
this
have
the
things,
pause.
pardon?
I call this the pause.
The pause. Yeah, I love that. The pause. And then just don't have things around you that you know you find difficult, that
Yeah.
you know you're going to eat. at a moment of weakness, because we all get weak, we all are overwhelmed, we are all overtired. If you know you're going to eat it when you feel something and you don't actually want to eat it, don't have it there.
Yeah.
So that's just like two really simple, very easy ways to do something about it today, like now.
I love it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm working on a
Amazing.
real food program as well, an online program that
Love
everyone
that.
can do to help them feel connected to food, but achievable, accessible, and based on self-empowerment. I'm not going to tell anyone what to eat. Like, I will not let anyone tell me what to eat ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell anyone what to eat.
Yeah.
But in the same way that, like, with the sourdough, I condensed like a 36-hour process down into 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like condensing 10 years down into like 8 weeks
Yeah.
so that people can do it just like
Yeah.
you could do the sourdough.
Yeah. Love
Um,
it.
so there we go.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Where do you hang out?
I hang out mostly on Instagram. I am on Facebook, but I'm not very good at Facebook. I need to get better. You can find me at alice.e.belton.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the best way to find me, I think. If you send me a message, follow me, say hi, and just I like interacting. I run a community garden as well. So if
You
you're in
do.
Manchester and you want to come and visit my community garden, we grow food and give it away and all sorts of wonderful stuff, then that is Olinda, Olinda Community Gardens. And we've got a website and we've got Instagram. You'll find us, we're the only one. But that's really cool as well.
I'll put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been fascinating.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
It's been so fun.
Mm,
Right, everyone, I will see you in the next episode. Alice, say bye, Alice.
Bye.